I told you I was really behind in video reviews, so here's yet another one. I thought having Marilyn over here would like help give you guys something visual to look at that's not just my face. So I hope you're enjoying that. I've had this Marilyn poster since I was a teenager. It's one of my favorite things. Anyways, so the Videodrome. Hold on. Videodrome. There we go. I finally bought one of these shirts. That was really difficult to get the whole name on there. Does this thing once a month with the Plaza Theater called Plazadrome, where they show a cult classic. And I went to Wild at Heart a few months ago because it's one of my favorites, and then I've missed a few of their screenings. So I finally got to go see one. This was a film I'd heard of but never saw, and I'm really glad I finally saw it because it was actually much better than I was expecting. This is Electra Glide In Blue. It's directed by James William Guercio, who was the manager of Earth, Wind, and Fire and Chicago, but also started producing films and then directed this, and written by Robert Boris. This was his first produced screenplay. He actually did a Q&A over the phone after the film and kind of explained how Guercio wound up directing and how he wasn't the original thing. And he gave some really interesting historical points on how the process went, that some of the bits from his original screenplay didn't make it into the final final film, and it definitely shows, as a screenwriter who's had a film made that I was not exactly happy with the changes made for my screenplay. I always feel very, very empathetic towards screenwriters because I know whenever there's plot holes and things like that, I bet you it was in the screenplay and somehow in the editing process or filming process or something, bits got taken out. And a lot of times it's like the studio's like, we need it under 2 hours or whatever it is. So he was explaining how some of the bits that didn't quite make sense made sense if you had filmed everything. That was good. Basically, the plot follows a Arizona motorcycle cop played by Robert Blake. Yes, the Robert Blake. Who wants to become a homicide detective. And when he finds what is thought to be a suicide, but turns out he's convinced it's a murder, he might get his chance. And the detective who comes to the scene, played by Mitchell Ryan, aka the dad from Dharma and Greg, agrees with him. They start investigating this murder. However, as this progresses, Robert Blake's character realizes that this detective does not want to go about things the right way. He's just too hypermasculine, and his I'm going to say my buzzword, his toxic masculinity is getting in his way of actually doing his detective work. The film is taking a look at the culture clash between the sort of dropout hippie culture and law enforcement, using a character, Robert Blake's character, who his name is John Wintergreen. They call him Big John because he's tiny, who is a truly good person and wants to do right by the law and does not want to just harass hippies and does not want to use his power to oppress anybody. He just wants to solve crimes and he wants to matter. And his sort of outlook, his positive outlook on life does not fit in with the world in which he lives that is corrupt, both in terms of not all the hippies are good people and cops. There's that quote from Unfleek that I watched the other day where it was talking about how it's indifference or malice or whatever it is all you can get from cops. This is a great follow-up to that, because that's, other than this one character, the cops that you see are either indifferent to their jobs and people or have distinct malice towards the people they're governing. This is kind of a fascinating film to watch right after watching On Fleek. So obviously things are not going to go well for this man because he's too good. The film also features Elijah Cook Jr. In a very batshit role. It's wonderful. One of the things I particularly liked about the film was the way that they emphasized Blake's height. It's done almost comically, but not really. It's really just shown, like, you could laugh, but really it just shows what it's like to be a short person in a world of not short people. As a short person, I was like, I feel represented. Because I'm always like there's a line of people and I'm like way down here, and it was just really interesting to show how you can be a short person and still try to work your way into the world and still, you know, specifically as a short man, because short women tend to be a little less made fun of, although not when you're a kid, but when you're older, you're less. It's less like, oh, you're so short. Like they figure a woman can do anything that a woman should do, right? But like short men tend to. That's why they have short man complex, because men are terrible and they make men feel bad about themselves all the time. Women do that too, but in different ways. Um, and specifically when you're a short man, they're like, "Oh, you must not be a real man. You're short," and it's like, no, that's not how that works. So the film does a good job of exploring that, and apparently it was written um, for a vehicle for Dustin Hoffman, although the screenwriter was unsure if it ever got to his people. So I liked this film a lot. It is really beautifully shot by Conrad L. Hall, and I think there are some aspects that don't quite work, some parts that haven't aged well, but they were all choices that were done for artistic um, reasons and all done to sort of tell a story in a unique way. And although they have not aged particularly well, um, it's nice to know that people were always trying to experiment. I'd rather see a failed experiment than a boring, out cookie cutter shot film. You know what I mean? So that the movie has that going for it. It also has less female characters than you'd like, although he said one female character was almost completely cut out um, from the original script. So there's that. But no, there's no sexual violence really. There's very few, like the handful of moments that are racist. You definitely are supposed to think, wow, you're a fucking asshole right now. Stop that. Like the few moments where people are awful, um, it's self aware that they're being awful, and you are not supposed to empathize with them. But it's also not done in a shocking way. It's done in a very true to the little ways people are racist and the little ways that people are violent. Um, so I just thought it was a very good film. I was really shocked. So this is Electra Glide in Blue, written by Robert Boris, starring Robert Blake, directed by James William Guercio, and you can get it on Blu-ray, I believe, from Shout Factory. So check that out. Shout Factory's done a really good job of releasing a lot of um, sort of cult and lesser films in the last 10 years or so on high def. So I shout out to Shout and Shout Select, and Scream Factory for other horror. So this is Electra Glide in Blue, and I recommend it. And the more I see of the American Southwest, the more it looks just like where I grew up in Northern California, which is weird, but I guess all Western deserts look the same, is what I'm learning. The more movies I watch, Electra Glide in Blue. Keep going to Videodrome, renting movies. Go to Plaza, watch the movies. Atlanta is is rife with film going opportunities. You should keep going to them.